Hello, and welcome to the Nicolas Cage podcast. It's the show where we take a look at the career of Nicolas Cage. We talk about the movies, his starring vehicles, and take a slightly deeper dive into the psyche of one of our most legendary on-screen actors. My name is Tobias. And with me is my friend and trusted co-host, Christopher.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And if you think this episode we sound a little rusty, we're not really sure about what we're doing, it's because it's the first episode. It's not our first podcast episode. We actually did a similar podcast about a year ago. Well, I mean, we started about 2 years ago, called the Adam Sandler podcast. Where we for some reason decided to watch every Adam Sandler movie before we watched Uncut Gems, and we turned it into a podcast. That was a dumb idea.
Yeah, spoilers. Don't do it. It isn't worth it.
Just watch Uncut Gems instead.
Yeah.
But you could also, of course, listen to that podcast or watch it on our or my YouTube channel. There are links everywhere. But yeah, so this podcast, we're starting it off on better terms, because unlike with Adam Sandler, I actually like Nicolas Cage, and I'm pretty sure you do as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's not one of my favorite actors, but I always enjoy watching it on screen, so...
Yeah. Same here. Doing research for the podcast, I definitely have gained some respect for him, but we'll get into that later. So the podcast is just going to be us talking about his movies, starting from almost the beginning and going up until the end, or whenever he reaches a new movie, Mm-hmm. And we're going to start this episode, you've seen the title already, we're going to talk about Valley Girl. He did do 2 movies before that. Well, 1 movie and 1 TV pilot. That TV pilot was impossible to find, at least find any decent quality of. And the first movie was I think he's in like 2 scenes in Fast Times in, what's it called? Richmond High?
Richmond High, yeah.
Right. So we decided to skip that one because there's not much to say. He just stands there. So we picked this. We picked Valley Girl for the first episode. I should ask you then, had you seen Valley Girl before this?
No, I had not seen the movie. I heard of it, especially heard about the soundtrack, but I'd never seen it.
Right. I'd actually never heard of it. I was first when we started talking about making this podcast that I looked it up, and yeah, the same. Then most people talk about the soundtrack to the movie. So I was, and I also heard that Quentin Tarantino thinks it's one of the best love stories ever, or romantic movies, or something like that. I was like, oh, okay, But it's directed by Martha Coolidge. It's made, we should say that, it's made in 1983. So it's before the PG-13, this is just a trivia, PG-13 rating. So it's an R-rated movie for some reason, which I find interesting. But it's directed by Martha Coolidge, written by Andrew Lane and Wayne Crawford. Loosely based on the song Valley Girl by Frank Zappa, at least according to them. I think it feels more loosely based on Romeo and Juliet, but we'll get to that.
Also, a fun fact, Frank Zappa did not... Well, he took... what do you say? He didn't approve of the movie. He didn't want his name to be associated with it.
Yeah, I tried to sue him, which was like, didn't work. Fortunately, I think. And it's a movie about Julie and Randy. Julie is from the Valley in California, and Randy is a punk from the city. And they, like it says on IMDb, they are from different worlds and find love. Somehow they need to stay together in spite of her trendy, shallow friends. That's a pretty good description of the movie.
Yeah. So before you started the movie, I guess you did some research, just reading what it was about and so on.
Oh yeah, sure. I looked at some of the trivia on IMDb or on Wikipedia.
So what do you think? Would you think this was a movie you would enjoy or not?
I was pretty sure I was going to enjoy the aesthetic and the music, because I'm not really into like retro in general, but I like early 80s aesthetic. So it was like, oh, I'm gonna enjoy this, and I heard some of the songs that was on it. I'm a fan of, like "I Melt with You" is in the song twice. And that's one of my favorite songs. I was like, oh, I'm probably gonna enjoy it, but I wasn't. I thought it looked kind of. I don't want to say, yeah, it looked kind of vapid based on the trailer. So I was like, it's probably gonna be fine, but I'm only gonna enjoy the music.
Yeah.
I was gonna be like a middle of the road kind of movie, but it wasn't really that. What did you think?
So yeah, I heard, because I follow a musical reviewer, and he talked about the soundtrack. And he said this is one of the best movie soundtracks that is not made for the movie. Well, the songs aren't made for the movie.
It's not a score; it's a soundtrack.
Yeah. So he said it's one of the best soundtracks to any movie ever. So I actually have the soundtrack on my Spotify, and I've been listening to it for a while, maybe a year.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, it's a good soundtrack. But I never. And then I looked into the movie when I started listening to the soundtrack, and I saw the poster and I read the description. I said, yeah, it seems like a standard 80s romantic comedy. I'm not that interested. So that's sort of the same as you, that it's probably not bad, but probably nothing special.
Yeah. And should we, I don't know, there's not really much to talk about story-wise. Like I mentioned, it feels like it's riffing on Romeo and Juliet. I mean, even the names I realized while I was watching it. Hey, wait, Randy, Julie. Oh, okay. So it's obviously a Romeo and Juliet inspired story.
Yeah, I read some interview by the writer or director. I'm not sure if it's writer, or director, but where he said that it's not inspired. It's more of a nod to. It's more like a fun thing, not that it was in mind when they wrote it.
Oh, okay. No, but there's obvious references, but it's not the story of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, exactly. Because there are some scenes in the movie. Well, some comments that sound weird. It sounds out of place. Just here and there. And I was thinking when I watched the movie if that was like maybe lines from Romeo and Juliet or something like that. But no, they were just weird. So.
No, yeah, the only one I found, there are like a couple of references to The Graduate, the Dustin Hoffman movie.
Yeah.
And I only recognized one of them myself. And there's when the mom of one of Julie's friends says plastics is supposed to be a reference to The Graduate, but I didn't get that one.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I didn't get that either. It was more, I did get the vibe though, but not that specific.
Yeah, because the movie's pretty straightforward. It's Julie is kind of a I don't know what you would call her nowadays, like preppy girl, or
I
not
think,
really an it girl, but
I'm not sure, but I think Valley Girl is still a thing.
Sure it is. But all her friends, they dress the same, they all go to the same parties, they all listen to the same music. But then, a coincidence or destiny strikes, and Randy's friend, I don't remember the name of. He was only in a few scenes in the movie.
Fred
Bailey, right?
Fred Bailey.
Fred Bailey, yeah. He overhears that there's going to be a party in the valley. We got to go. I've seen the babes. So they go to the party and they stick out. Nobody wants to talk to them. They don't wear the trendy clothes. But then, of course, Randy and Julie lock eyes, and that's the rest is, as they say, history.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, as we said before, this is a like 40-year-old movie. So we're just gonna spoil it, right?
Oh, just sure, yes,
Yeah.
sure.
So-
And I mean, it's a romantic comedy. Guess what?
What?
They fall in love. They have towards the end of the second act, they kind of break apart, but then they live happily ever after in the end, after a romantic gesture.
Yeah.
Wow, big surprise.
So now, after you've seen the movie,
Yes.
what do you think of it? What? Not the score. Just did you like
sorry,
it?
yeah. Yes, I enjoyed it a lot. I wouldn't call it like an amazing movie, but I really liked it a lot, more than I thought I would.
So
I don't know. Maybe we'll get in more to that later. But the big draw for me was Nicolas Cage. He was amazing. It was I don't know if I got like a slight man crush, which I never had before. But it was just something about Randy, the character, to made me like almost like giggle every time he showed up. I got the why Julie liked him. There was definite chemistry between them on screen, I think.
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. But I did not like this movie.
Oh, okay.
So I think, yeah, technically it's great. Well, the directing is not bad. It's there. It does what it should. Nothing more, nothing less.
Sure.
The soundtrack is great, obviously. The actors are amazing most of the time, not always, but specifically the two main characters.
Yeah.
But I think their writing was so lacking, and
yes.
throughout the
I
movie,
mean,
I'm not just talking about like the dialogue. Overall, it felt like the movie kept telling us that they are in love, but I didn't really feel it anywhere in the movie.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because they looked at each other, and then they went on sort of a date, and then we have a montage, and then they sort of break up. It's okay. And the movie said, yeah, so they've been a lot on dates now, and they are really in love. Oh, really? So what do they like to do with each other? Well, making out. Anything else? No. What do they like doing? Nothing.
It's puppy love, though. I mean, it's not like a serious romantic story or anything. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I just couldn't buy it. And then there was a lot of things that just was weird. I mean, if you look at it from any other point of view, first of all, Julie is like one of the worst people.
You think?
I mean, she didn't make any decisions throughout the entire movie. Entire movie, she talked with someone and said, "Should I be with him?" And they said yes, and she would, or they said no, and she wouldn't. That's the entire movie.
Sure, yeah.
She never made a decision in any situation. She just asked people what they thought, and then she ran with it until someone said the opposite.
Yeah,
And-
I'll agree to that.
Yeah, and there was
she's torn. She's torn. She doesn't know what to think.
yeah. Look, the worst is when she's like talking with her father at sort of the third act of the movie, because so she has this old boyfriend that she breaks up with at the beginning of the movie, and
Yeah,
then sort of
party.
get talked into getting back together with him.
Yeah, by her fucking friends.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And then she talks with her father after that, or just before that, and asks him, "Who should I be with?" And he's like, "Yeah, you should decide that. So who do you want to be with?" "Randy." "Okay, so you don't want to be with friends?" "Yeah, I do want to be with friends." "So what you gonna do?" I need to be with the ex." "Okay, so you want to be with the ex?" And that's the scene.
Yeah, but he's trying to make her make the right decision.
Yeah, and she
not
refuses to make a decision. She just refuses.
Well, she does. She tells Randy that I can't see you anymore when he shows up at the door, and she says, "Why don't you ever call before?"
Yeah, and then at the end he shows up and says, "Do you want to be with me?" And she says, "Okay, now I do." I swear.
But she
If
always
the,
wanted to. That was the whole thing.
I didn't feel that. That's the problem. I didn't feel that.
Okay.
After the first like date night, because I sort of get the feeling in the first date night, but after that I didn't feel it at all. She always sensed like she didn't want to be anywhere.
I don't know. Maybe I got swept up in the romance of it. I thought they had definite chemistry, and while there's not a lot of substance to it other than the meet cute, and then the extensive montage in the middle, and basically after that they do more or less break up and then it's him trying to get her back. That's about it. So yeah, there's not layers to it. But I mean, I wasn't expecting that either. I just every time after they broke up and every time he tried to do that, like his friend said, like Bailey said, the big romantic gesture when he showed up everywhere, it was like just go to him. I got swept up in it.
And that's I'd say not the movie's fault. It's more my fault because I go by today's standards, and that was fucking creepy though.
Yes,
him sleeping in a sleeping bag outside of her window, without she knowing.
It hasn't aged very well. I mean, parts of it hasn't aged very well. I mean, overall, I think it's a timeless kind of love story. But yes. Details have aged very poorly. The boyfriend, the first boyfriend, Tommy, played by Michael Bowen, more or less like minutes after being broken up by Julie, by Deborah Foreman, he sort of kind of rapes one of her friends.
Yes, yeah.
Not really, but it's more like sexual assault. But I mean, it's borderline.
Yeah.
And there's even a scene like, "Oh, I won't tell if you won't," and then he just leaves her there.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck?
That's also a thing. Why did they make a scene out of that? Because that could have been a great subplot. Because we saw with that friend that she was never speaking out against, but never speaking for dumping Randy. From that point on.
Yeah, she was conflicted because of what happened, but they didn't do anything with it. That's true.
They could have really done something.
Oh, definitely.
Not great, but another layer or something with it.
Yeah. Same thing with the other guy who had a crush on one of the friends, but he was also kind of into her mom.
Yeah, that was just weird.
The whole graduate subplot, which I thought was going to end in him getting together with the mom, but then he sleeps with the friend.
And I think that was that's what the movie was trying to. They was trying to create a twist, in a way.
Yeah, that didn't work. It was just because when he once again aged very poorly, or just it was not even okay back then. He just sneaks into their house, and goes into her bedroom, and he sees someone is in the shower. It's like, oh, that's the mom. But then it was the daughter, and they had sex. And it's like, what?
And then we never see that storyline ever again in the movie.
They're barely in the movie after that.
Yeah. But I did.
There's the same thing with Randy's friend, Fred Bailey. He has kind of a will they, won't they going on with one of the other friends, Susie. I don't remember the names.
But I do have,
and they kind of get together in the end, but there's not really anything to it.
Yeah, sort of. But I did some research and I found where I think the reason for these weird things.
Okay.
I don't know if you found it, but the studio gave them a requirement that at least 4 pairs of breasts needed to be in the movie.
What?
Yeah, the studio said more or less, you can do whatever you want, but there needs to be this many pair of breasts in the movie.
We need to see more naked bodies.
Yeah, because apparently, from the director said in an interview that the studio thought of this movie as an
exploitation.
Movie.
Oh, okay.
And that this was just a movie where the naked and the tits was the important part, and the sex and all the plots were didn't matter, and so they said do whatever you want as long as we get this much naked, and that's why it's not R-rated, but yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
But then apparently from Martha's own mouth, I think it feels a little exaggerated, but apparently she says that when she showed the movie to the executives, after the movie they all stood up and said, "What? This is a real movie." Not sure about that part, but that's what Martha said. So yeah. And I think these weird subplots that didn't go anywhere were just to get those naked scenes without actually making the main characters do anything that was off for the script.
Huh.
Probably. Not saying it's a good thing, but it's an explanation.
No. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, that's then something that you would hope has aged poorly, but that's. We on the other podcast I have the spoiler cast, which you can check out, on all major platforms. Me and my sister, who's my co-host on that one, we talked about the movie Jennifer's Body, if you remember that one, with whatever her name is, Megan Fox. That was the same thing. The director of that one, Karen Kusama, she wanted to make like a serious movie about the aftermath of like sexual abuse. But the studio is like, yeah, but we got Megan Fox in the lead. Could you make it more sexy? And she was just like, what the fuck? I don't know if have you seen Jennifer's Body?
Oh yeah, several times.
It's
one of my favorite movies. Not top 10, but it's up there.
It's up there, yeah. And there's this weird disconnect between the like serious and the more like campy parts of the movie. Like sometimes you feel like there is meaning behind this, and then sometimes just like, oh, she's just a sexy monster who kills people.
And that's why I love that movie, because it switches so fast between things. It's like if you go back and watch like the old I don't know, like Buffy for example, also switches between like super campy and very serious in between scenes, and just one hard cut, and I like that exposition. No, exposition. Not exposition.
Yes. Whatever the word is, yes.
Yeah, that word. Yeah. So that explains at least these weird subplots in Valley Girl.
Yeah, because some of them feels like it's ripped straight. The part where he sneaks into the house and sees her showering, I was like, oh, this is a porno.
Yeah, juxtaposition. Without the that's what I was
juxtaposition.
Looking for.
Yes. All that's missing in that, because there's quite the not explicit sex scene, but I mean, all that's missing is basically penetration, and it is porno.
Yeah.
In that scene, so it makes sense now.
Yeah. I think the only nudity in the movie that actually made sense for the plot was Randy's ex or something, Randy's friend.
Oh, right. Yeah, the girl he makes up with.
Yeah.
In the bathroom of the club. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that really shows his. It is the male thing in a way.
Yeah.
After being broken up with, I'm gonna drink a lot. I'm gonna have sex. And I mean,
and then I'm gonna regret it.
Yeah, exactly. And pick fights. Yeah, he pick fights too. He checks all the boxes.
Yes, like, I'm not saying this is groundbreaking work. I'm just saying I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, the character, the actors, great.
Yes.
I really like the Julie's parents.
Yes, they were very, very progressive for such an old movie. I like that.
I heard that was a thing. I read Roger Ebert's review of this movie from 1983.
Okay.
And he said that apparently this movie was a fresh breeze in the romantic comedies at that time, because that was the first time. This was one of the first movies where the parents actually acted as parents did in 1983.
Didn't act like 50s parents.
Exactly.
And
I think so. I think that's why you like them, at least those two.
Yeah. They kind of felt like, I don't know if you would call like typical teen romantic comedy parents, but they reminded me of the parents in ECA.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too.
Okay, yeah, because they're very similar, like very understanding, very progressive. Or I saw a movie a while back. What the fuck was it called? Big Time Adolescence, where the parents also they're a little more conservative, but they're also like they're trying to understand their teenage son in his crazy escapades. So if it kind of felt like like this might have been then an inspiration for future romantic comedies. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. So, just quickly, what do you think about the ending?
Well, since I the movie made references to the Graduate, I thought they were gonna do sort of a similar thing, like, oh yes, we're gonna run away together, and then like, now what? Like when the fairy tale ends, oh, are we still gonna hang out, or Because but no, it just ends like, oh, they run away and they sit in the limousine together. Now it's over. Yay, everyone's happy.
Until the driver says, "Hey, didn't you like Tommy?" And she will say, "Yeah, I do," and then goes back to Tommy.
No, she won't.
But I was thinking more of the prom scene.
Yeah, it felt a little rushed, and his ultimate the proof of love was beating up her ex.
Yeah, it was.
It's just like, okay.
Even for this movie, it felt kind of off, because all that happened was that he snuck into their prom, started a fight with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And that's it. Then they left.
Yeah, I think this might also be that it just hasn't aged very well. That like now it would be more romantic if he tried to be the calm and cool one, and he like defended himself against what's his name, Tommy.
Yeah.
But here I guess it's more like I got to show that I love her by beating him up, and that was like more of a thing back then. I mean,
maybe it is possible. It's like 6 years before I was born, so I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe that was the more romantic way of doing it back then. I'm not sure.
I just, it came from nowhere.
Yeah, a little bit. It felt a little rushed.
The things he did before was at least somewhat clever. Like getting a lot of jobs that she would interact with him, like at a movie theater and
fast food place. Yeah.
And then
I like that. That part was funny. I like that.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. That's true. Kind of creepy that he knows her entire schedule though, but still kind of funny. But the ending was it just felt so off. I don't know.
Yeah, it felt like we just needed to end now, and he runs away with her after beating him up. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean at least because I don't think they said anything to each other. Randy and Juliet at the prom.
No, she is just like you mentioned. She's very passive. In the end. But yeah, they could have done something. I mean, if it was made now, which I know they did a remake, but I don't think either of us watched it. So I wonder how that one ends. I feel like because that's a musical, it would probably end with a big music number. Like maybe he takes the mic away from the band who's playing at the prom, and he's like, "I love you, Julie. I'm gonna sing you a song."
And then they have a dance battle.
something. But that would have been better. Like a grand gesture of love that didn't involve him beating someone up. That would have been better.
I also like that they just jump into Tommy's limo that Tommy paid for. And the limo driver is like, "Oh, okay, sure. Some random kids jumped in back. I'll just take them."
Yeah, but he gets it, man. It's destiny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's a lot of. I don't hate it, but I can't see how anyone would put this as favorite on any top 10 list ever. I can't find any top 10 list where I would even conceive of having this.
Maybe not in the top, but I could put it in like my favorite romantic comedy list, definitely.
Really?
Yeah. That's despite its flaws. I mean, I racked a lot of that up to it being made in the early '80s, and despite the producers trying, it not turning into a TNA movie. I can see why people remember this movie, not just for the soundtrack, but that's probably why most people remember it, because the soundtrack is great.
I did saw an interview with Kevin Smith interviewing Nicolas Cage about this movie. Or well, they talk a little about this movie. It's not. It's just like 4 minutes or long or something.
Okay.
Where Kevin Smith he said, that the power you gave to this part and that movie, it really changed me and really made a mark on me. And it's like, how could this? I
can
don't
see
get
if you're a teenager back then, if you're the same age as them, if you're born in the mid '60s, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there is such a culture difference both in America, in LA, and in the 80s that I just can't understand. It is possible.
Oh yes, there's a definite cultural barrier, but also because the times have changed so much since then.
From my point of view, the only reason this movie is even remembered at all is Nicolas Cage is in it and the soundtrack. That's the only two reasons I can see why anyone would ever remember this movie.
Okay.
From my point of
view. No, I got, like I said, I got really into it. Like I was giddy every time Nicolas Cage showed up. I felt the attraction, definitely. Which I read that Nicolas Cage did as well. That a lot of the scenes where he's supposed to like look smitten by Julie was real, because he kind of had a crush on her in real life, and like wrote poems for her and stuff.
Well,
so that must for me. I think that must be why the chemistry is so good, because I really felt the chemistry between them, even though she's kind of a wet blanket. But just like he's so different from all the other guys that she's used to. She's obviously very different from all the girls he's used to, even though we don't really get that perspective in the movie. It is definitely, it feels. I mean, it's written by two guys, but it is directed by a woman. So it feels like it is more from the female's perspective, at least to a certain degree, which is also unusual, at least back then. Then it's a very light, very light on that perspective, but at least it's there a little bit. So I like that. Instead of it's not a movie about Randy. It's a movie about Julie.
Yeah,
I would say.
So one alternate thing that I was talking with my girlfriend after we watched the movie, and she brought it up, and I think that would have been a really interesting movie. If we took the entire movie just as is, more or less, and we just cut out Randy, and we just see everything from her and her friend's point of view, and see so we see this, that she just disappears, and then she starts wearing different clothes, and she starts not coming to parties, and then we put it in like a sort of a drama or a thriller way of watching it, because if we don't see their dates, it seems kind of like a toxic and weird relationship, especially if we end it with he appearing for the first time in the movie and beats up Tommy and they leave.
Well, of course. That would be kind of funny, and I get that.
I'm just saying that could have been an interesting movie if we made it today and just use this script to create this kind of weird thriller drama movie about this psycho guy, and we are always in the dark of, is he a bad guy or is he a good guy? And we flesh out the friend stories and these things. I think that could have been a really great movie, actually.
But I mean, she doesn't really do anything dangerous other than, I guess, staying out until the sun comes up the first time.
No, and that's the movie is ambiguous.
It's not really a toxic relationship.
No, I'm not saying it is. I'm meaning it's ambiguous, and if we see how the friends are talking to Julie, like
Oh, okay.
Like you're never with us anymore, and you're not at the same parties, and you go to the bad part of town, and
Yeah.
you're starting to dress weird and talk weird. That's another interesting detail. There are I don't remember how many, but there are a few fucks in the movie,
Yeah.
and one of them is said by Julie, and that's after she has hung out with Randy a lot.
Oh.
So he like rubs off on her. So I think that's a nice detail just in the writing.
Yeah.
But I mean these things, and we put it so we watch from their point of view, and we never actually know if he is a good guy. If the friends are just creating things out of nothing. Think of the song "What's He Building" in there with Tom Waits.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Sure.
Put it
sure,
like
sure.
that point of view.
Yeah. Yeah, but then it feels like the movie would be very biased.
Oh, yeah.
Since we only get one point of view, and yeah, then he would look kind of bad.
Yeah.
But I see it more like her, because she.
Oh yeah, I'm
again,
not saying the movie that exists is bad, or that he is bad, or he is toxic, or anything. I'm just saying it's an interesting thought experiment. I'm not putting those judgments on him. I would say he is a good guy. She and her friends are the problem. He's just trying to live his best life and not being rich. Apparently, Nicolas Cage, because he's Nicolas Cage. Even back then, he lived in his car during the shoot of this movie to get in the mindset of Randy.
Nice.
And I think so I'm not saying that he is bad. I'm just saying it would have been an interesting movie. A more interesting movie.
Okay.
If we put in some more layers and some more mystery in the movie. Sure. But it is a movie from 1983, so what do I expect?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, I couldn't see it because I thought her friends and all the people, they're so like they say, shallow and vapid. Yeah. I'm like, no, he's a breath of fresh air. That would go. I mean, once again, I don't know if they did that in the remake, but like, add something like, because this is obviously like him being the big change in her boring, shallow life, but it would also be interesting if she changed him in some way, which he doesn't.
Yeah. Well,
that could have added a bit of depth to the story. She's the only one that changes.
There's one scene in like the montage that sort of hints on that she's changing him, where he has some kind of shirt and he looks really uncomfortable when they're in the mall.
Oh, okay.
It got the feeling that she was trying to shop for him or something, but it didn't stick.
He's trying to fit in, maybe, but.
I was definitely waiting for the Grease twist. That was what I was waiting for.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when the friend is just like, I have this plan, we have to do this, I have this big show plan. And I thought that he should dress up as one of those guys.
Yeah, exactly. But no, man. You gotta cast off the shackles of preppiness and be with the real cool guy.
Yeah. But yeah, it is this. It is a weird thing. This movie, just if you set yourself in the mindset of the preppy kids, that they are so in their own thing that they can't even handle that to be at that part of town.
Yeah, exactly.
It's weird. It's kind of weird.
Oh. Yeah, they're like nobody wants to even like look at them at the party.
Yeah, but I mean, when they just drive to Hollywood, and it is the same town. It's just the same city. Well, it's a big city, but still, it's just another part of the city, and they're like, oh, we can't be here. Oh no.
Yeah, and that's also kind of funny because like Valley people aren't even the rich snobby types in Los Angeles. That's over in the hills in like Bel Air.
Yeah.
So Valley people are basically just like the same as city people, just that they live outside of the city. So
Yeah, they are
it's
like
not like-
Are they like upper middle class sort of?
yeah, sure, yeah, middle class, upper middle class. So it's not like, because in Karate Kid, that's the big thing. He's from the valley, she's from the hills. She lives up there, he lives down there, you know.
Oh.
But here it's just they all live down there, but in different parts of it.
Yeah. Just another thing that also annoys me sort of with Julie. That's kind of fucking mean and weird of her when they go on the first date,
Yeah.
and she more or less forces her friends to go with them.
Well, I
get the thing that it's smart to be two girls
Yes.
and not to be alone. I get that, but
that's
she's
a
like,
very responsible thing to do, actually.
yeah, but still, so I need to go with this guy, and the friend is like, I don't wanna. So yeah, you come on, hang with me, and more or less, and she's adamant that she doesn't want to be there. And then they go to the club, and she's like, I don't want to be here. Come on, we're gonna be here now. And then they go up and park at like some high location, a makeout spot, and this random guy from her point of view, the friend's point of view, is chasing her around the car, and she's like, I want to go home. It's fucking morning. And Julie just looks at her, rolls her eyes, okay. And then they go home, and the sun has come up. The friend was out with her for like 12 hours. No, but like maybe 8 hours. And Julie didn't even say thank you, and just said, you need to do this. That's kind of crappy of her. Come on.
Yes, and that's why they needed to flesh out some of the B plots, especially then the friends' romantic side plot. Like, if there was at least a spark between them as well, so that she wouldn't just be horrified the entire night.
Yeah.
While Julie's making out with Randy. Yeah. But I gotta say that's a good friend move though, to like, I'll go with you so you won't be abducted and raped.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you should
even
do
if she
that,
does it reluctantly. Yeah. It's kind of a bros before hoes, but the girl version, whatever that is. I don't know. I'm not a girl.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to say about the story.
No, not really. Yeah, hasn't aged perfectly. Some B plots that should have been fleshed out.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah. Let's talk more about Nicolas Cage. This is
but I mean, first
podcast.
of all, are we gonna go with the score maybe of the movie?
We should do that first.
Yeah. If we're gonna go past the movie, so sure.
Sure. You first.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give this week 6 strong 5. I'm gonna go with a 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll give it a solid 7.
Solid 7. Yeah.
Not great, but I'm definitely gonna watch it again.
Yeah. I will definitely.
I'm already looking into getting the Shout Factory Blu-ray collector's edition.
Yeah, but I will though listen to the soundtrack a lot.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Another thing that I just found out just watching looking at the IMDb page. A reason why this is a perfect place for us to start this podcast. This is the first movie where he is credited as Nicolas Cage.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So the movies before that, this was not a Nicolas Cage movie.
No, yeah, I know that he was Nicolas Coppola in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is another trivia. This is also his first and last movie before he had his teeth fixed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did notice his teeth doesn't look like they do now.
No, he has perfect Hollywood teeth, but in this one they're kind of look like regular teeth.
Yeah, they're not bad.
No, I've never even thought of that until I read that and then looked at his teeth, and specifically in this movie, like, oh, okay, yeah, they're different. He knew all the way back then. He knew, I'm gonna be a star, man.
Yeah,
I gotta fix my teeth. Yeah, but yeah. So what more specifically then? Nicolas Cage. We already mentioned that we already could kind of detect a bit of craziness.
Yeah.
What did you think of him as Randy?
I mean, he did a great job. There was this small, very, very small moment of pure Nicolas Cage that you could see.
Yes.
The Nicolas Cage, like the screaming and the crazy Nicolas Cage, just a few flashes of it.
Yes, that when they break up and he's drunk and
Yeah.
he's walking towards the club and he's supposed to be crying, but it's more like oh all the way.
There's also these weird screams he does when they go to the club the first night they meet. When they go drive in the car and he screams at people that he sees on the street that he knows. And he does these weird just sounds that doesn't really... Yeah.
Yeah, it's the more you, because everyone knows about Crazy Cage, because he's crazy nowadays. But the more you watch his older stuff, which I haven't seen a ton of his old stuff, but like it was always kind of there, and like right from the beginning, now we see it. It's there.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but it's there. I thought he did a great job. Like I said, I was completely smitten by him as the character. The one thing is, like, I couldn't really, because he's supposed to be like not like a punk rock punk, but he's more like a new wave-ish kind of punk.
Yeah.
They just call him a punk because he's from the city. Because he has his friend has the suspenders, and they both have the kind of flock of seagulls hair, and it's dyed in different colors. He sells it like with his acting, but he doesn't look the part. There's something about him, something about his look that I was just, he's not a real punk. It was just something, I don't know.
Really? I didn't get that at all.
Okay.
I bought it.
He sold it with the acting, but it was just, when I just looked at him, I was like, no.
I did also read about his chest hair. Hair is kind of weird in this movie.
Okay, yeah, I didn't notice.
Okay, because there's like his chest hair is shaved in a V-neck.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You can see it
when the first scene is in what's called swimsuit.
Yeah, and you can see it there.
Yeah. I didn't think of that.
I was like, that looked weird. And there's a few times when he has like a button-down shirt and a few buttons are open, and you see this sort of weird V-neck, like it's a hair T-shirt under his shirt. It looks really weird. Apparently, the director asked him to shave his chest hair, because he looked too manly to be an 18-year-old.
Ah, okay.
Nicolas Cage sort of refused.
Well, yeah, because he was 18 when he made this.
Yeah.
18 or 19, yeah.
So they made so they decided that he would shave it down so it wouldn't stick out of the shirts, and that's why he shaved it in a V-neck. But it still shows at some point, so it just looks weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched it in standard definition, and maybe I didn't see it. I didn't notice it, but now that you mention it, it's like, oh, okay.
But it is another like Nicolas Cage thing. It feels like a very Nicolas Cage thing to do. To just, can you shave your chest? No.
No, man.
Why?
Yeah, but I understand. Like, you gotta look more like an 18-year-old. Oh yeah, I'm 18. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, you're an actor. Come on.
I know. Yeah. Sure.
I mean, some people. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but some people just lose like a lot of weight or gain a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Can you just shave your chest? No.
No, man.
Sure, maybe this is the movie to do it, but if it is like your first serious part in a movie, come on, shouldn't you just do whatever they say? I would sort of do it. I mean, if this was my first real movie as a main character, I wouldn't be like, no, I'm too big to do what the director says.
No. You need to keep your integrity. That's why he has the career he has today.
Yeah,
Oh, shit,
obviously.
fuck.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the first movie of the season 1 Nicolas Cage podcast.
Yes, we should mention that because I think we're gonna wrap up pretty soon. Because when we sat down to make this list, we made a list of the movies. We immediately removed all the movies where it just has a small role or when it's just a voice role, because that was a rule we had for Adam Sandler as well. So with Adam Sandler, that was like we still had like I think it was like 60 movies or something, and that was like that's a lot, but I guess we'll do it. We did the same with Nicolas Cage, and that still was it 200 movies?
No, not 200. I think everything in counted. I think it's like
all right.
100,
Everything
is like 180, 160 something. But
Yeah,
we got it down to 85 movies.
Right.
Or no, 84 movies it is.
Okay.
But still, that's if we do one a week, that's 1.5 years. So
Exactly. Yeah, so we decided to split it up into seasons. So this is the first episode of season 1, which is it starts with Valley Girl and it ends I think pretty properly with him getting his first Oscar. Well, his only Oscar to date. For Leaving Las Vegas.
Exactly. So this is all the movies before he gets his Oscar. That's season 1.
Yeah, 80s and mid 90s or early 90s.
So it's 83 to 95.
Yes, and what's the next one? It's Rumblefish.
Yeah,
right?
Next one is Rumblefish. So one of the reasons I suggested this actor to go after Adam Sandler was because I was thinking of watching some Nicolas Cage movies, because he has released a lot of new Nicolas Cage new movies that I haven't seen. That sounds really good, actually, or interesting at least. And a few that I know that you have been asking me to watch for quite a while.
Oh, okay.
Mandy.
Yes, Mandy.
And then I started to look back in his and see. I've seen a lot of movies with Nicolas Cage, and I started scrolling on his list on IMDb, and I realized no, I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot at all. I thought I had.
No, you've seen a lot. He's just made an insane amount of movies.
Yeah. And this season 1, I have only seen one movie of all of these.
Okay, let's see. I've seen a couple of them. Not a lot of them.
So yeah, the only one I've seen is Racing Arizona.
Okay.
And that's
I haven't seen that one.
And that's because like a way a lot of years, I think it was back in film school, I watched through all the Coen Brothers movies.
Okay.
And that's why I watched that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of new interesting things. But next week it's Rumblefish.
Yes.
Made in the same year.
Yeah. Which is funny. We talked about removing when he just has bit parts. I mean, it's a considerable. He's like the second biggest part of the movie, but he's not technically not a lead in the movie. But I think you talked about removing it, but I wanted to keep it. Mainly because when I started doing research for this, I bought some Nicolas Cage movies, because I still collect physical movies, and I bought the Criterion edition of Rumblefish. So I was like, no man, I spent $30 on this. We're gonna fucking talk about Rumblefish.
Yeah, I think, because as stated, there's a lot I haven't seen, so I just removed everything that wasn't an animated, voiced, or wasn't main character. I removed all those. Yeah. But there was a few that you asked me to put back, so Rumblefish is one of those.
Rumblefish was one, and then later in season 1 we're going to talk about a Deadfall, where he's also a smaller role, but boy, we need to watch that one.
Yeah.
Well, that's for later.
Yeah, I think that's it. I don't know I don't think I have anything else. If there's nothing more we need to talk about this podcast as a whole.
No, I don't think so. Just to reiterate, you gave it a 5 out of 10.
Yes.
You liked it, but it hasn't aged well.
Yeah.
I'll say the same, but because I was so charmed by Nicolas Cage, I gave it a 7 out of 10. But definitely hasn't aged well.
I'd say for me, a rewrite or two, and I'd be happy
sure.
with it. But
Yeah.
it feels a little too much as a first draft
Yeah, definitely.
for me.
So, do you have anything to plug before we
No.
depart? Any Twitter handles or Instagram or other podcasts or?
No, this is everything I do on the internet. I'm not doing anything else.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll mention my YouTube channel where I talk more about movies, not just Nicolas Cage movies. It's Please Don't Make a Scene. And on there, of course, you can watch our last podcast, the Adam Sandler podcast. And I also have the spoiler cast on there with my sister, which is, like I mentioned before, it's on all major platforms, which this will be as well. So check that out if you want to hear us talk about more contemporary movies or older movies, but just it's not Nicolas Cage centric. And then if you want to support any of the podcasts or stuff we do on YouTube, there is a link to our Patreon. We don't have any specific rewards or tiers for the Nicolas Cage podcast. But there are some perks. There are commentary tracks, exclusive videos and stuff. So check that out as well. There's, like I said, there's going to be links all over the place. But that's it for this episode. And we'll see you in a week when we're going to talk about Rumblefish, a Coppola movie, a Francis Ford Coppola movie. Oh, very prestigious. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Madness in the Method is part of Please Don't Make a Scene. Look us up on YouTube for more podcasts. The show is produced by Tobias Vedén, and executive producer is Annika Vedén. Original concept by Christopher Billén. The show is hosted by Tobias Vedén and Christopher Billén. Sound editing and mixing is by Tobias Vedén and Christopher Billén. A huge thank you to all our sponsors over on Patreon. Rasmus Jonsson, Lara Kinney, Mom and Dad.